If you guys love fast station wagons just like I do, there are a couple of rides that deserve the spotlight today. Exclusively JDM only, top performance limited Autech versions of the Nissan Stagea. Here we go. The Stagia brand itself wasn't super famous. It's another Japanese domestic model, and sadly only 2 generations were produced over 11 years. But if we dig into its bloodline, what a noble sibling it has. Nissan Skyline wagon did exist in the 1980s.
Skyline sedans, sports wagons, very competitively priced.
Here is the R30, and of course the R31. 2 generations offered this type, and even now they look pretty nice and sporty, but the wagon was discontinued with the R32. And after transitioning to the R33, Nissan decided to revive the station wagon body. It seems like they had some kind of identity crisis with the wagon, aiming to present the Skyline as a higher grade model, but a practical body type resonated with this idea. While the new car was technically a mix of Skyline and Laurel models, it got its own name, Stagia. The wagon got the chassis code, based on Laurel's C letter with an addition of the WG in front of it and unique models attribute like personal badge with unicorn shaping the S letter. The 2-wheel drive car was built on the Laurel's base with a McPherson front suspension, while the all-wheel drive version had the Skyline's double wishbone. Under the hood, you'll find completely different inner body panels on these versions depending on the drive type. There were some intriguing versions of this car, including a 4-wheel drive, turbocharged RB25 powered, paired with a manual and a helical LSD. But the car we're interested in today is a pinnacle of the lineup, and it definitely shares more in common not just with the Skyline, but with the Skyline GT-R. Autech, Nissan's in-factory tuning division, was quite productive with special edition cars in the 90s. Today's Autech Nissan might be a simple model with fancy bumpers and a special paintwork, but back then they built convertibles out of Silvias, highly tuned, naturally aspirated SR and RB engines, and even a 4-door Skyline GT-R. So these guys were responsible for creating a GT-R wagon. The car was called the 260 RS. And if you're even slightly familiar with the GT-R, you need no hints about what the 260 stands for. The heart of the car, and undoubtedly the main thing that makes it special, is the engine. A 2.6-litre straight-six with 2 turbochargers producing 276 horsepower and 368 newtons of torque. Nominally, of course. Most sources say that the real power was 320 horsepower, which definitely makes sense. The RB26 with its 5-speed manual was taken from R33 GT-R and placed into a Stagia. No auto transmission was offered. The rear track was taken from the GT-R as well, with strengthened main gear, drive shafts, mechanical LSD and lightweight aluminum knuckles. It was also featured with GT-R shock absorbers and Brembo brakes all around. Exteriorly, the Autech model got its own massive body kit with an aggressive front bumper. Take a look at the lower part. It resembles a GT-R's front lip, doesn't it? A huge spoiler on the 5th door is another cool feature, unique for this version. The 260 RS got its own rims, 17-inch forged BBS, which were really special, just 7 inches wide with different front and rear offsets. So the original rims had stickers confirming whether they were for front or rear use only. And tires, they were 225, unlike the GT-R, which had 255. On one hand, the wagon wasn't supposed to attack as hard as the GT-R, so there should be enough grip for it, but on the other, I think Nissan didn't want to bother with wide fenders too much. The car was already expensive to produce, so widening the body was probably beyond the budget. They did, however, strengthen the body of this wagon. Handling shouldn't be an issue with increased performance. So the body was reinforced inside with a front strut tower bar, a tunnel strut, and a couple of crossbars. As it was common in other Autech models, the interior retained the same shape but featured a grippy upholstery similar to the GT-R, leather-covered shift knob and handbrake handle, and a Momo steering wheel. It also kept the GT-R's additional 1-DIN gauges to monitor oil pressure, boost, and a front torque. So inside, the car was quite restrained, keeping the family wagon vibe. With a weight around 3,800 pounds, the Stagia performed predictably weaker than a GT-R. But come on, 0 to 60 sprint in 6 seconds? Way more than enough even for today, but for 1997 it was impressive. 1,734 units have been produced in 4 years, which is quite a lot compared to other Autech versions. There are 2 types, an early model, a little bit less than 1,000 produced, and a later model, 748 units only. The facelifted model got new front and rear optics, a bumper, and minor interior changes. The C34 Stagia was discontinued in 2001 at the same time as the R34 Skyline and C35 Laurel, and it slightly leads us to its successor. The new Skyline generation was so different that it had to change its factory code from the legendary R to V. It was a completely new platform with a new body structure, full aluminum suspension, and a new engine range. The straight 6 cast iron RB was replaced with the aluminum V6 VQ series. While developing its high-grade sub-brand Infiniti, Nissan aimed to optimize the variety of its models, decreasing the quantity of JDM-only cars and making them more global. So when the G-Series Infiniti was revealed for Japanese customers, it inherited the legendary Skyline name. Of course, it was another breed, but at least it helped them to sell the cars. And what about the Stagia? Remaining a standalone model, it received its own exterior and a factory code again. This time the C was replaced with M, but inside it was the same Skyline of course. The new Nissan platform called Front Midship was created to impress drivers with its handling performance. The engine is pushed as far back to the firewall as possible, creating a weight distribution close to 50-50 and enabling the front wheels to be placed close to the corners for better handling. Initially, Stagia was offered with 3 types of VQ engine, 3-litre, 2.5, and the same 2.5 with a turbocharger, 2 types of drive, all or rear, and automatic transmission only, no manual at all. But we're here seeking a unicorn, right? And Autech sure delivered one. The Autech Axis 350S is definitely the rarest Stagia ever made. It was in production for only 1 year, from 2003 to 2004, with just 167 units produced. Axis is the name of Autech's styling package that was offered to most Nissan models, and 350 traditionally stands for engine displacement. The VQ35DE was taken straight out of Fairlady Z with its 6-speed manual, eliminating the main flaw so far. The car was only available in rear-wheel drive version, and if the first Autech Stagea was often called a GTR wagon, the second version can be truly named a Z-Wagon. But don't be scammed. The Axis styling kit, or its parts, were available to order for any Stagia, and the 350S was marked with just a couple of small badges, so if you know, you know, or if in doubt, look inside. The 350S had a black interior only, with its unique leather combined upholstery, and a manual gearbox stick should definitely be there. The manual car, lacking the 4-wheel drive Atesa unit, weighed about 220 pounds less than a typical Stagia depending on a version. The VQ35 produced 276 horsepower and 363 Newton-meters of torque, which is about 50 Newton-meters less than the turbo version. So its performance was around the same 7.5 seconds, which is still pretty good, considering it's a full-scale business wagon with a luxurious vibe.
If you don't mind, I would like to share some personal stuff with you guys. I used to own the M35 Stagia a few years ago, and I was so happy with that car, really. It was a built, not bought one. Initially, it was a simple NA 4-wheel drive car. I swapped in the turbo VQ25 engine, then a boost-up ECU, dismal suspension, GTR Golden Brembos. So a lot of money was spent on it, but you know what? I don't regret a single cent. The car performed awesomely in any condition. The power was even excessive for a daily, and it was just enormous inside. When I was turning this car into 2-seater, even my dad was jealous with his Tundra.
So since we've on the modification topic, you might notice that it's not too hard to build your own 350S copy. Just put it a Nissan Z powertrain and the Axis body kit, which is not a big deal. There were plenty of Z cars and Axis-looking Stagias produced out there. It's much more complicated with the C34. Genuine body parts are very rare and not cheap at all. But the main issue is clearly the engine. It's not only difficult to find and expensive to obtain, but a used RB26 isn't the easiest engine to deal with. Due to its infamous oil issues, it's better to keep some cash in advance to be prepared to refresh it. And if you are thinking about buying one, I'm not sure about the original 350S. These cars are real phantoms. But at the moment of posting this video, Autech 260RS still exists. Despite its rarity, these wagons are cheaper than a R33 GTR. Japanese price tags start from 30k and up, depending on condition, but the average is from 40 to 50,000 for a good example. We all could be a bit disappointed that the next Autech Stagea lost its GTR vibe, but times change. When the 260 RS appeared, Nissan tried to offer something special for people who didn't fit the GTR but needed its performance, for family reasons, non-racers, or even to carry a fridge, whatever. But with the M35 Autech didn't have a benchmark like this. Rumors swirled about the 380 RS Stagia back in the day. Guess what engine it was supposed to have, but it hasn't turned into reality. Exploring all the Autech special models, it looks like the Axis 350S was the last special low-series Nissan modified by Autech, not only exteriorly, but mechanically. The links to the videos about Autech Skylines and Silvias will be somewhere here. And of course, I'm excited to know your opinion about these cars and what you think of their value. Feel free to share it in the comment section below. Truly hope that you've learned something new from this video, and don't miss a new one. Hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.